a pay-per-view built on nostalgia with the intention of honoring the wrestlers of years gone by so we don't forget about them. Na 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 na, na 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 na. Well, it was a good idea in theory, but then it was reduced to a smoldering pile of ashes by midpoint, and then by the end, it was a cold, deep fucking crater, so fucking deep that you couldn't even find the goddamn bottom if you went down there into the Earth's core, and frying in the Earth's core would have been less fucking painful than enduring this show. Good fucking god damn it, god fucking damn it. You know what? That isn't even good enough. Let's just get this one out, and this is less fucking painful than reviewing this show again. I'm John Renton with the retro review of Heroes of Wrestling 1999, The Redux. Yes, back years and years and years ago. Seriously, it was an astonishing amount of years ago. Actually, it was only about 6. I did a long-running series called Why 1999 Sucked in Wrestling. It's not that 1999 actually sucked in wrestling. It's just a lot of people hold the Attitude Era in such high reverence. And there were a lot of bad things in all promotions. And actually, to be perfectly honest, I think ECW might have had its best year as far as in-ring talent and whatever. And WWE has bad stuff. WCW definitely has bad stuff. And I capped it off by reviewing Heroes of Wrestling. Why am I doing a Redux? Well, I decided I want to throw more venom towards this. And oh, God. Look, had this just been a house show, live event, whatever, then a high school gym, and had they maybe done a home video release, sure, it might have gained some traction, because it was a fucking train wreck. If you have not seen this goddamn thing, first shout out to NL Wrestling Archive on YouTube. They posted this. It's in the best fucking quality, but it's from an old VHS tape from the original pay-per-view broadcast. This is $20. This was $5 more than Herb Abrams' pay-per-view. I believe it was Beach Brawl 91. And I don't remember what the 1994 one was in the MGM Grand, but it probably wasn't much more than this. This was 1995, and honestly, fans should have been paid to fucking watch this, because this was excruciating. Yes, the wrestlers have to eat, and yes, the wrestlers deserve to have a moment where they could shine and just show, hey, hopefully you don't forget about us. Yes, I already did that song, but good God, good fucking God, once a fucking 10. Ow. And still less fucking painful than watching this. One of the worst pay-per-views, if not the worst pay-per-view of all time, because this was intended to actually be a series, like a quarterly series, to honor wrestling legends. That's a good idea. That's not the worst. The idea behind it isn't the worst thing in the world. There was some production company called Fostone Productions, President Bill Stone, whoever the fuck he is. I mean, he could have done the most charitable shit in the world. Hell, he might still be alive doing charitable shit. I don't know. But good God, him putting this together and anybody else to put this together that thought this was a good idea, by the time you got through the entrances for the first match, this pay-per-view is dead in the fucking water. It was dead in the fucking water for a variety of reasons. He wanted to make this a series of pay-per-views. They wanted to hit 40,000 pay-per-view buys, and then that would be fine. Well, they only hit 29,000. And honestly, I don't know how 29,000 people fucking bought this unless they lost bets. Massive bets, and said, fuck it, we got to plunk down this $20 right now. Because this was 1999. You didn't really order shit on the internet. I mean, you could, but you usually called your cable provider, and you made sure to find out, oh, how can you order it in your area? Because this was when pay-per-view was still fucking rocking. They were in Bay St. Louis, or Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, rather. Geography is not necessarily my strong suit, nor was it the strong suit of one of the managers. They called it Biloxi, Mississippi. And it was at the Casino Magic, which is now the Hollywood Casino Gulf Coast Hotel something or other. It's a casino hotel. And it was a venue that held, they said it was 2,300 people. I fucking doubt it. They had that thing so poorly lit, the crowd so poorly lit. Not that I necessarily wanted to see the crowd, because in the first front rows, or the first couple front rows, rather, you know, like on either side, you probably could have gotten a full row of teeth if you looked at all the goddamn fans. I kid, of course. This was excruciating, because while not a bad idea in execution, what the actual shit were they doing? Planning began in May. It's going to be May. And The idea is that they wanted to contact a whole bunch of legends. I believe Honky Tonk Man, Terry Funk, Sid Vicious, but Sid Vicious signed with WCW, so he couldn't go, and other legends turned it down. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Maybe they learned from Herb Abrams. Sid especially. So Nick Bockwinkel was supposed to be there, I assume as a commissioner, because he hadn't wrestled since Slamboree 93, I think was the last match he ever fucking had. Rest in peace, Nick Bockwinkel. One of, if not the greatest AWA champions of all time. And he wasn't there. Gordon Soley was supposed to be there, the legendary wrestling announcer. Unfortunately, he did suffer, I believe, he was diagnosed with throat cancer and would succumb to that just 9 months later. Rest in peace, Gordon Soley. By that point, Gordon, even if those health issues hadn't come up, I don't know if Gordon could have saved this, and Gordon's a professional, but Gordon might have walked out of this goddamn thing. So Dutch Mantell joined commentary along with Randy Rosenblum. If you thought Art Donovan on King of the Ring 1994's commentary team was bad, Randy Rosenblum, who, again, like Bill Stone, may be a really fucking nice guy, was not cut out for wrestling. He was somehow a little bit better than the XPW commentary, which isn't fucking saying much. He didn't know anything about wrestling. He didn't know fuck all the shit about wrestling. And it was astonishing. As just a wrestling fan, I'm like, okay, yes, you could freeze, and maybe commentary is really difficult. In fact, I imagine commentary is difficult, whether it's on indie level or whatever. You got to study, you got to make sure you call stuff, you got to time it right, you got to do this. This guy had no fucking business doing this. And it was one of many bad things that happened. The venue was poorly lit, bad audio. It was like a smoke-filled arena. It's like everybody was smoking packs of Marlboros or Pall Malls or non-filtered cigarettes, including the children. In fact, if I looked like those children, I probably would have drank, smoked, and, put myself David Carradine style in the goddamn closet so I didn't have to raise them. That's fucking mean for no reason. I'm sure they're lovely children. I'm sure they grew up to be great goddamn people. They were joys in the household. And then I'm sure that they grew up to become graduates of major universities, assuming that anybody in Mississippi could have actually spelled university at that point. Sorry to anybody in Mississippi that happens to be watching this. It's more of a knock on the crowd than anything else. So, Bundy's promo was interrupted by Yokozuna, who was the size of a fucking barge by this point. Yes, Yoko would die about a year later, but seriously, he could have not gained that much weight. Maybe he would still be around. That advertising campaign, going to all the TVs and all this stuff. Check out all these legends. Again, good idea in theory. And they had pyro in this small venue, which probably lent to the fucking smoke. Randy Rosenblum, Dutch Mantell on commentary. They run down the card. Crisper or Crispin Stafford. I don't actually know her Stanford. I don't really know and don't really fucking care because names aren't important here. Somebody's gonna get their ass whooped tonight. That's actually what the ring announcer said. The Samoan SWAT team of Samu and the Samoan Savage, aka the Tonga Kid, with Sika and Paul Adams, took on Marty Jannetty and Tommy Rogers. Yes, one half of the Fantastics, one half of the Rockers. And Tommy Rogers, I think, was the best in shape here. The youngest one was Tonga Kid, and he was only 33 at this point. I was trying to do the ages around this time. One of them, I think, was just about to have a birthday. It might have been Tonga Kid. But Paul Adams cuts a promo, if you want to call it that. Now, this was probably the only pay-per-view appearance that this guy ever had. I don't really know about him at all. And he probably wanted to make the most of it. He should have made less of it because less means more. And less of this guy talking on the mic would have been better. Samoan Savage and Co., they had a match that wasn't terrible. Randy called a dropkick a flying leg kick, a leg drop. I want you to think about that. A dropkick. A dropkick that any wrestling fan of like 6 months would have known was a dropkick and would have called that. Flying leg kick, a leg drop. He called an arm drag a reverse slam takedown. Dutch, at this point, you could actually hear him getting pissed on commentary here. And then the match, here's the thing. A couple of the matches actually weren't that bad. This was okay for a few minutes. It went 10. And TKO pinned Tommy Rogers because I assume Marty had to go behind go in the back alley of a bowling alley. And if you know, you know. this was terrible. Just, right off the bat. Like, we were not off to a good goddamn start, and unfortunately it would only get worse. Cut to George Steele and Sherry backstage or in a hotel somewhere. I assume the casino hotel. Then a Sherry promo. She was fired up, and she's accompanied George Steele to the ring. George Steele, by the way, who had not wrestled regularly since '88. I mean, he wrestled off and on and everything, but he got into juicing to help cure his Crohn's disease, which, terrible. I mean, I've known people that have had to deal with that, and it's fucking brutal, apparently. But George Animal Steele taking on Greg the Hammer Valentine. Beauty and the Beast match. The winner gets Sherry, but Sherry is turning on George Steele and attacking him, and then taking the object that he gives to her because his shirt was over her head and he didn't realize who was choking him, ignoring the fact there was only one person at ringside that would have done it, but they had to present George Steele as an idiot, both on and off camera. And God, this was awful because Greg Valentine obviously wasn't going to be the performer he was. George Steele was never that good in the ring. He was a great monster heel when he faced off against Bruno Sammartino, but then he became more the lovable goof idiot with the green tongue and that kind of stuff, and ripping up the turnbuckles. But then the referee, by the way, just had to look at all this and just say, fuck it, I'm not going to call a DQ. But boom, Sherry hits George in the back of the head with a chair, sort of. And then Greg Valentine covers 1, 2, 3. And then they all run to the back. After Sherry gets sent over the top, George rips up the turnbuckle pad. Greg Valentine comes back, hits him with a chair. And then they briefly brawl, and then that's it. Or, well, actually, George, just stares at him, and Greg Valentine runs out. Greg Valentine all smiles like he always was, by the way. And we're only 2 matches in, folks. Unfortunately, it gets worse. It doesn't get worse, though. Well, okay. I mean, there's Julio Fantastico, who's Julio De Niro, that you might remember from WCW and WWE jobs, and also the last couple of years of WCW, or ECW, that is. Talented guy. I don't know if he still wrestles. I think he retired a number of years ago, because I don't recall really seeing him. I think he was on some NWA TNA pay-per-views, I believe, but he was not on for that long. Too Cold Scorpio took on Julio Fantastico. Captain Lou Albano joins commentary. He is apparently the commissioner. Captain Lou Albano is one of the most entertaining and energetic and enthusiastic personalities of all time. How's that for a bunch of E words? But he overrode the commentary here. Then we didn't have to hear Randy Rosenblum talk at all, that guy probably should have been flogged repeatedly for his bad commentary. Or just had Dutch Mantel call it. You could have gotten somebody up the goddamn street that would have called wrestling better than Randy Rosenblum. It wasn't bad. I mean, they did some dives, a couple cross bodies outside by both. They fought into the crowd, no count-out call. And then 2 Texas tumbleweeds, not Texas tumbleweeds, he just did the tumbleweed leg drop. If he did the Texas tumbleweed, he would have been just doing the leg vice and rolling around, everything, knocked him down, rolling around, come on, defense work, woo! And then he would have been doing that. Ooh, the finger's spinning. Ooh, what does this button do? This pay-per-view drove me nuts, in case you can't tell. Too Cold landed on Julio's head with the other one. Totally missed the leg drop, but landed with his ass on his head. Ouch. It wasn't Yoko. If Yoko had been able to do that move, that would have been something. The ring might have imploded. The goddamn casino might have imploded. But yeah, Captain Lou's commish. He hypes up the next pay-per-view, which didn't happen. It was like when WoW Women of Wrestling did the WoW Unleashed deal. And that was in February of 2001, the LA Forum, and then they hyped up another pay-per-view that was supposed to happen in April, and it didn't fucking happen because it was terrible. Check out my retro review of that. Speaking of terrible things, the men down under, the men from the land down under, a.k.a. the Bushwhackers, but they couldn't call them that because trademarks. Luke and Butch took on the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov with Nikita Brekhanov. That you would think would have been some kind of, I don't know, bleach blonde they could have had play a Russian hooker, but no, not that. It was just some guy that looked like he was stalling for time. And none of these guys should have been in the goddamn ring. At this point, especially, the fucking Bushwhackers got a second lease on life with the Bushwhacker gimmick, because as the Sheepherders, incredible heat-getting tag team, they had beaten their bodies up. I mean, look at how they moved when they were in WWF in 88, 89, even 90. And how they couldn't move? There's a reason for that. They beat the shit out of themselves before. Iron Sheik was in terrible shape. I think that Nikolai was probably in the best goddamn shape of anybody, and he couldn't do anything. This is probably, except for the main event, the worst goddamn match on the show. And this went about, I think went about maybe 10 minutes. Maybe it was shorter, it felt like it went way, way longer. The crowd was chanting USA. Keep in mind, Luke and Butch are from New Zealand, which, for non-geography majors, is not anywhere near the USA. I mean, you could try a drive there, but I don't think your car is going to make it. It's like Hawaii. How did you get here in a car? So yeah, Iron Sheik does the stick thing, except it looks like he's picking up plungers, which, look, to carry those sticks was impressive, you know, those big sticks that he had. Not China's big stick. This is not DX. If you know, you know. That was impressive. Him picking up what looked like plungers just didn't look that impressive. Missed foreign object shot, and Sheik gets covered 1, 2, 3. And then the heels come face to face, but then the Nikita non-hooker Brekanoff basically stops them from doing anything. And no, please don't do that. No, don't do that. No, don't go over there. Stop, don't do this anymore. How drunk was everybody on the show? Not as drunk as Jake Roberts. More on that later. Tully Blanchard arrives in a limo, and then Stan Lane beats him up and throws him in the trunk. And then Tully cuts a promo where he's a little bit stumbling at first because he doesn't do this full time anymore. But then he mentions with Arn losing to the Midnight Express in Philadelphia. Name drops Jim Cornette. Talks about Jim Herd because fuck Jim Herd, by the way. And just gets fired up. So he gets fired up at the end. Okay, not bad. Tully Blanchard taking on Stan Lane. Yes, of the former Midnight Express, who had not really been wrestling all that much in a number of years. Stan Lane was about 45, and I don't think Tully Blanchard was much younger than that. He might have been just a little bit older. Sadly, this is probably the most pro wrestling centric match of the show, and it was still not great, but at least they tried to work it like a match. Stan was a heel, Tully was a face. It wasn't great, though. It was like really kind of, I think both guys were confused just because neither of their hearts were really in it, but they certainly tried to build it up. And then we get the double pin, 1, 2, and Tully gets his arm off. He takes his arm off, and then he puts it back on like Bender. I don't know how you did that. And Tully gets the victory. And then they have a brief brawl. Stan Lane with short hair, by the way, just fucking blew my mind. I don't know why. And then, promo from Bundy, King Kong Bundy. Bundy, you big fat piece of shit. Good old Ernie Ladd, Miss Ernie Ladd. And Neidhart yells about Snacks. No step on Snack. So then One Man Gang yells about Abdul the Butcher. So yeah, Abdul the Butcher with Honest John Cheatham. Yeah, these are the names they're going with. I don't know who that guy is, but he looked like a baked potato. And look, I'm just going to say right now about Abdul the Butcher, like I did about the Bruiser Brody Dark Side of the Ring episode. Abdul the Butcher deserves just as much hate and vitriol towards that as anybody involved in the fucking murder, because Abdullah knew what happened. But he claims he doesn't know. Brody was his greatest rival and stuff like that, and I didn't know, but he owned some of the business, and he couldn't snitch on anybody. Because he was a disgusting, worthless piece of shit that couldn't wrestle, could only cut himself up, cut his opponents up, and couldn't fucking move by... He couldn't even move by 85, for God's sakes. Yes, he was using his attraction, and yes, when you saw him once, he was cool to see, and then 5 minutes later, like, this guy can't fucking move at all. Even with the power of hindsight, even with the power of eyesight back in, like, say, the mid-80s, I don't know how anybody could have watched him more than once without saying... He doesn't fucking do anything. He just does the same shit. Sure, a lot of wrestlers do that, but a lot of people can actually fucking wrestle. And the fact that Abdullah the Butcher has outlived so many other goddamn people that deserve to live longer, fucking bullshit. And I'm fucking glad that the guy is goddamn basically crippled. Because he fucking deserves it. Yeah, bit harsh, don't fucking care. So... these two guys take on each other and bleed and just beat each other up, and neither wanted to do a job, so they do a double countout. If you want to watch this match, I don't know why. It is fucking excruciating. Really excruciating, but it's Abdul the Butcher attempting to do shit in the ring, so of course it's excruciating. At least One Man Gang was impressive. Granted, he was not the jive soul bro that he was a little bit earlier in the decade. a little bit earlier, like way at the beginning of the decade. Good old Akeem the African Dream. I can't imagine why anybody got upset by that gimmick. What was wrong with the one-man gang? Whatever. Oh boy, cut to Captain Lou, who's talking to you, Bob Orton Jr. and a few other people playing poker. And apparently the cameraman was taped to the goddamn ceiling because he was just up there and nobody got him down. Or as Lionel Richie and he got down on his own. Does anybody get the Lionel Richie reference? Is my audience skewering that old? That's old even for me. Captain Lou is with noted murderer Jimmy Snuka as he takes on Bob Orton Jr. Jimmy Snuka, not Albano, by the way. That would have been interesting. Bob Orton Jr., though, before he decided to endanger everybody with hepatitis of some variety at No Mercy 2005. Yes, that was the thing that actually fucking happened. Albano was at ringside, and Randy Rosenblum by this point is totally fucking lost. This was painful, mainly because it went almost 12 minutes. Orton Jr. could maybe go 6, and Snuka was ready to beat up another goddamn woman and murder another goddamn woman because he fucking murdered Nancy Argentino and never fucking paid for it. And Jimmy Snuka should have been slapped repeatedly. And even at the advanced stage that he was when he had such diseases and CTE and he didn't know what the fuck was going on, he deserved to be slapped around repeatedly. And what could he have done? He couldn't have done anything. And he would have deserved it. Every goddamn bit. So Jimmy Snuka burned in fucking hell for it. So, crossbody after an excruciating match where Orton focused on the arm. At least that was some psychology, but still, crossbody 1, 2, 3. Then Jake Roberts cuts a promo. I want to say right now that I'm glad that Jake Roberts has achieved sobriety. Good on him. It's amazing how the manipulation from his father got passed down genetically, but I digress. At least he's sober. And apparently he was in good spirits, and I don't mean those kind, before this. But then, for whatever reason, the casino environment, somebody wasn't keeping an eye on him. They talk about this in Beyond the Mat. And the Jake Roberts documentary that WWE did, and oh boy. I really hope that this upcoming Vice TV stories from, or territory tales from the territories, whatever it's called, ends up being really goddamn good. I am looking fucking forward to that. I am going to be absolutely locked in reviewing that. And I hope they cover Mid-South Wrestling. I hope they cover Jake Snake Roberts, cover Heroes of Wrestling, cover shit like that. Because Dark Side of the Ring may end up going on ice, for a while. Because somebody didn't like the stories from the Plane Ride from Hell, and everybody threw a bitch fit. Let's talk about Jake Roberts. You don't want to play cards with me because I cheat. You want to play 21, I got 22. You want to play blackjack, I got 2 of those too. He was toasted. Fucking toasted beyond words. And I'm not making light of that. He was fucking toasted. And he admitted that. So, 2 main events became 1 because it was supposed to be Jake Roberts versus Jim Neidhart and then King Kong Bundy versus Yokozuna. 1, Yoko and Bundy was probably going to end in a double countout because neither one wanted to do a job. 2, Jim Neidhart versus Jake Roberts, even a sober Jake Roberts in 1999. That's a singles match you wanted to fucking have? Stan Lane versus Tully Blanchard. Well, not the worst, wasn't all that great. And you want to put these 2 guys in the ring? 2 guys, Jake known for doing what gets himself over, and Neidhart, who's outstanding in tag teams, and rest in peace Jim Neidhart, but good God. Jake came to the ring. It was Jim Neidhart versus Jake the Snake Roberts, by the way, to start out. And then he came out, put the snake in the ring, walked back up the ramp, and then walked back. And then they had a match that was not good. Not good. Not good at all. They had to basically keep Jake on the goddamn mat because he couldn't do anything. He was stumbling around. He was in those sweatpants like he was back in Mid-South and old world class stuff. But he was slimmer, and he also had a better head on his shoulders, and this was bad. This was really, really excruciatingly bad. The snake was poking out, so Jake decided to make it like his own snake was poking out and do this and do the phallic stuff. Oh, yeah, and he had a woman rub his chest before the goddamn show, which, I mean, granted, if you take a look at some of the people in that fucking crowd, it's probably the most action they got from anybody not in their immediate family, but I digress. Bundy then shows up, and then Yoko shows up, and now we have a tag match. Why? Because it's the only way to salvage this? Salvage. Yeah, that's what it is. No, it's trying to salvage sewage. This was excruciatingly bad. Jake stumbled around. Yoko was the fucking size of a barge by this point. Apparently he lost weight before his passing, but still, had he been what he was in the dying days of the AWA, or even to begin with in WWE, that might have been fine. Had he been about 400, 420, 425 maybe, okay. He got up to where he was about 700 fucking or 700, 800 pounds. Jesus. I mean, I don't care if you're 8 fucking feet tall. No human being should be that. No 2 human beings combined should be that. So, this was just bad. Jake stumbled around. Jake eventually fell to the King Kong Bundy splash about as safe as Bundy could fucking do it. 1, 2, 3. And mind you, we only got a couple minutes left of the pay-per-view by the time we get to the finish. Yoko brings that, brings a manager out. I don't even fucking remember what the guy's name was. Something Henry. But brings him in the ring, and he's trying to get Jake to come and do the DDT because he's holding him. And then he realizes Jake doesn't know where the fuck he's at. Jake doesn't know what century it is. Jake doesn't even know the Fall Out Boy is going to do centuries in a number of years because, well, nobody's really going to remember that because the song hadn't come out yet. What he did is he stumbled, and Yokozuna sent him into the ropes of this manager guy and hit a safe Samoan drop, and that was it. And that was Heroes of Wrestling, folks. Heroes of Wrestling, one of the worst goddamn pay-per-views, if not the worst goddamn pay-per-view of all fucking time. One of the fucking worst. So, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.